Sadulu House Spiritual Center would like to invite you to join our learning community by encouraging you to sign up for our monthly webinars. Our webinars offer live interactive instruction designed to help empower you in your spiritual evolution and ritual work. The webinars we provide are purposed to help you dive deeper into the concepts and calculations of the chief Jegna of Anu Nation, Heru Yuya Asan Anu, through the decoding and exploration of sound, symbol, ancient and contemporary text, and various other tools used to invoke a state of highest awareness. We are able to abandon the constrictions of dead thought to travel to higher states of awareness, which is our rightful designation. To view our list of webinars, go to saduluhouse.com/events. Topics for 2016 include meditation, spiritual cleansing, astral projection, chakras, crystals, water magic, candle magic, the third eye, animal totems, dreams, and sex magic. Remember, go to saduluhouse.com/events to register. Take the steps toward your life renewal and rebirth at osirislife.com. At Osiris Life, we offer you life coaching services that will put you on your personal path to success. Services include spiritual work done on your behalf, spiritual consultations, and one-on-one instruction provided on a monthly basis with techniques that are easy to apply and custom designed just for you. Get in step with your spiritual destiny by purchasing a subscription package today at osirislife.com.
Okay, everyone, greetings, and welcome again to another Foundational Friday on Enlightenment and Transformation. I want to welcome you all. Of course, as always, I like to welcome you first-time listeners, and I certainly want to welcome all of you who are consistent and steady listeners to all of the Enlightenment and Transformation segments. And I will that you are getting as much out of them, or I would say even more, that you're getting more out of them than even we do in presenting them. All right. So this segment, I think, is probably going to be another one of those concentrated segments where I give some information and then give you an opportunity to go and apply said information. There was something that was said in this past Chief Speaks. And this past Chief Speaks, there was someone who had called in and they were asking about chakras. Okay. And I don't want to say they were asking about chakras. They were speaking about chakras and speaking about how they were trying to help someone who they felt was having issues with their root chakra because of some of the things that they had noticed that they were unable to do. So I've done shows on chakras before, and I know a lot of times when people do speak about chakras, at least the neophyte who feels that maybe they might know about them, they'll just reference 7 chakras. Very similar to a lot of times when people are speaking about Orisha. And let me get my band. I need my band. You know, I need to bring up the house band right now. But you know, a lot of times when people are speaking about Orisha, there we go. Mistakenly, a lot of times they'll speak about Orisha as if there's only 7 Orisha. You know, obviously a reference to the 7 African powers. Well, the same thing with the chakras, you know, and like the caller had said, well, chakras are energy, or chakras, she was saying, but it's like I said, it was chakras is pronounced. But I was kind of messing with her too, you know, just having fun with it while teaching, because it has to, you know, like the great and honorable Khalid Muhammad said, you know, there has to be a measure of inspiration along with education. So, of course, when you're teaching certain things, there is going to be that measure of fun involved. There's going to be that measure of revelry and entertainment. But you don't want to get locked into the entertainment of knowledge. And a lot of times it becomes that Sometimes people get off on being entertained by lecturers and speakers solely because they have boring lives. So if you have church service or a temple service, or if you're doing a consistent segment where you're teaching certain things, that really just becomes entertainment. I remember somebody saying that once about Bobby Hemmett in my presence, and she said, "Yeah, I love Bobby Hemmett." She said, "That's my comedy entertainment." And she was dead serious. She listens to all of the powerful and wonderful wisdom and jewels that he gives for the sole purpose of laughing. And of course, if any of you have ever listened to Bobby Hemmett, you know that he is a very funny and colorful individual, but certainly he's realized as a master instructor after so many years that unfortunately that is the salt that you have to include a lot of times when you're standing up and speaking in front of people. And sometimes the listener and the receiver may not realize that as a serious instructor, as a serious jegna, and person who's a guide and leader to the light, when you have to incorporate those type of things, it actually is very frustrating. It's many of us look at that with great disdain, that we spend so much time studying and learning, and at the end of the day, it's reduced to entertainment. So I mean, that's just kind of a side note, and just for you all to sometimes maybe give that thought to people who you value, as your instructors and whatnot, and recognize that though they may be comedic and though they may be colorful, that is certainly not their intent. Comedians tend to live very tragic lives. That's a hard job. So when you mix that hard job with the hard job of being an instructor, that's just too much going on, But yeah, so like I said, a lot of times when people speaking about the chakras, they'll reference 7 and they're kind of done there. Like, okay, it's 7 chakras. And sometimes we'll call them the 7 major chakras. But you got to understand that anytime you're referring to something as major or something as minor, it's always culturally driven. So in certain cultures, you may have like 7 major orisha. You may have 7 major chakras, but that's all based on someone's perspective. As I've said many times, to the great dismay of those who think that they had this thing down packed, Obatala is not an orisha. Okay. It doesn't mean that he's not within the family of the Yoruba pantheon, but there are more entities out there than just ancestors, orishas, and humans, so that triad of Obatala, Orunmila, and Oduduwa comes from a different emanation, so in theory, looking at the 7 quote unquote African powers as 7 orisha is actually incorrect, because only 6 of them, 6 out of the 7 are actually orisha, so a lot of times, and again, if you go over to the continent, you don't have that whole idea of 7 African powers. People look at you and don't even know what you're talking about. So a lot of times what we consider to be the major points or the foundational points of an understanding are based on what our culture dictates. So it's really important for us to understand not only the cultural dictation, like, okay, where is this coming from, but also understand that what aspects of that are more relevant to us here and where we're at, and what aspects are maybe minor aspects. And that's going to change based on region. You go region to region, even if you live in a desert, Oshun is going to represent something different to you than if you live in a rainforest. Doesn't mean that you don't have Oshun included, but obviously fresh water means something much different when it's difficult to acquire. It takes on a more grander and maybe even a more Messiah-like quality to it, that fresh water aspect. So what I wanted to speak about this evening is a chakra point that many people sometimes don't even know exist, sadly, because it's a very important chakra. And I wanted to speak about the foot chakra. All right. And I know we're going to do a show. He just did a show last night talking about salt, and now he's doing a show talking about feet. What's going on? you know. But sometimes it's the mundane things of the world that we overlook, and it's those mundane things that create the foundational reality for our whole existence. It is that holograph that comes later that projects so far from us, and those basic mundane properties of electromagnetism. But that holograph is rooted in basic mundane things. So it's the salt that sits in the core that projects itself out to other things later, and we call that soul. You know, so when we look at things like that, when we look at that type of energy, we look at that type of reality, we got to always pay homage to the root things and the root causes. Okay, the basic root causes. All right. So very similar to last night, I'm gonna pull up something from my studio archives, and I'm gonna start us with that to get me into a certain space, and then after we come back from that, we're gonna get into the concept, the application, and the quality of the foot chakra. We'll be right back. You're listening to Foundational Friday on Enlightenment and Transformation. This is Chief Yuya speaking, and I'll be right back.
I'm reflecting on the times we were kings, creative success. We were loved by our queens, but Western conquest provided a dream. Scheme I protest. It divided the team. No, oh no, I'm no hero. No, no, no. Watch out for the privilege. Prey on the innocent. People are villains, pilgrims, attend. They murder our children. Searching, they kill them. Educating, they will them. For dollars and cents. Survival of fittest. The projects we live in. Trying to die for riches. On the corner, just building. I'm no hero. On the corner, just building. Oh, building. Let got to be. Let go, let me, let me, let me, let me, let it now. About to beat it down low.
All right. And we're back with more Foundational Friday on enlightenment and transformation. And you are listening to Chief Yuya on this glorious network. All right. And of course, that was another piece out of the archive, surrounding myself with my own creation. It's like being surrounded. When I play my own works, it's like being surrounded with my own children, like unborn children, though, really, because everything I pretty much play on the show is unfinished stuff that ideas and stuff that I may have worked on and never finished, and said, okay, it doesn't need to die in the vault. You could give it some light. So that was just another unfinished work, but one day it'll finish. One day we'll put it out there. Sometimes you just got to send those vibrations out there and let your art know that it is still important to you. You haven't forgotten it. So that piece was Hero. And there's a whole series that I'm actually getting ready to release soon. I know people ask me about when you do another mixtape. A couple of people have sent in emails about that. But I decided the next musical piece I'm gonna release is actually gonna be my own stuff. And that song Hero is actually one that we started on maybe about two year and a half ago. I don't know. 2 years ago, a year or two. You guys know I am with time. And I'm still tightening up. You probably could hear some of the mistakes in the guitar and the bass and stuff. Still tightening up some of the music, but that's one of them. And just the concept with that is just recognizing where you're at. You can't truly be free if you don't know who you are, because you don't know who the heck you're freeing. So putting on costumes and putting on a cape and saying, well, I'm King so and so, I'm Queen so and so, I'm Grand Baba, Great Mama, that's all cool and everything. But if you haven't really gotten to the core, the soul of who you truly are, then you're not sure of what aspect to liberate. You might just be liberating one part of yourself, and the core of what you are lives in your ori, lives in your head, So if you free your mind, your will follow. That was some really deep wisdom that they were given with us when they shared that. So you got to know yourself. You got to know your mind. And one of the important things that you got to understand, like in any operation where you're exerting a lot of energy, you're going to generate a lot of heat. Again, one of the reasons why in our Yoruba system, there are so many rituals and work that are done or that we do just to cool things off. Because the concept of things being cool or the aspiration of things being cool is critical. The coolness ensures that things don't get bent and warped out of shape. You see, so again, that's a cultural understanding, because being cool in Nigeria, which is very hot in Nigeria, especially like when you're like in Lagos, like it's hotter than when you're in the country, But so the idea of being cool there obviously means much more than perhaps the idea of being cool and you live in a place that has very broad seasonal climate changes, So you always want to kind of try to tap into, again, the cultural aspect of things. So here in this culture, we don't build much. Well, some of us don't. I'm not going to say everybody, because I don't know everybody. I know a lot of people, but I don't know all the people. But here in this culture, many of us don't really talk about the root as much, you know. And that's something that we want to dig into a little bit more, what it means and why it's so critical, why it's so important, you know. So let's take a look at it for a moment here, right? Now we know about the crown chakra, and like I was saying, with generating that heat, when we're doing work, just like what I've said before, electricity is a form of fire, heat is a form of fire, light is fire. Can't have light without fire, can't have electricity without fire. Okay, though it may be controlled or channeled, was never truly controlled, but channeled and funneled, it's still just channeled and funneled fire, no matter how you look at it. Okay, so with that idea or with that concept, we understand that if we are especially expanding and we're growing and we're learning new things and we're discovering new things and we're trying out, which is a big part for a lot of us, like, well, let's see if this works. You know, he's saying, let me talk to someone like this. And like I was in the checkout line a strong or two ago, and there was a young lady in there saying, you know, yeah, I got to deal with people every day to get on my nerves. I've been wanting to curse them out. And, you know, I was in line and I had a chew stick in my mouth. Some of you know, that's one of my signature things. So I had my chew stick in my mouth, and she was like, what's that in your mouth? Cinnamon? And I said, no, it's not. I said, but sometimes I use cinnamon. I said, in fact, that's excellent to put on your tongue when you're in a situation where you're surrounded by people who you may not feel comfortable around or you may not feel safe around. It's a really good idea to use cinnamon in that environment, and you can use cinnamon also to kind of balance out a space. So you could just take a drop and put it on your tongue, or you can just take cinnamon powder or use the actual bark and put that in your mouth. And sometimes I do that, and then of course when it gets soft, I just eat it. It's real hot too, and so it's kind of like a test of your own strength. But definitely cinnamon oil, therapeutic grade extract, is good. Whenever you're, like, even in a meeting, when you're in a meeting and you don't feel totally confident, you're around people who you're not sure are for you, or who may definitely not be for you, take a little bit of that cinnamon extract, drop it on your tongue, watch what happens immediately. The environment, like your eyes open up, your environment gets very clear, there's confidence that comes in. So, I had shared that with her. And then the next time I went back, she was saying, because it was late. I always go real late. And she said, I know some stuff. I said, okay. She said, I've been studying, and she says, I studied metaphysics, and she started breaking some things down. And I said, well, that's cool, and she started talking about praying and God and stuff. And I said, well, if you study, then you should be beyond that. So, so we had a good talk about that. But, sometimes we're not aware of how much activity, because I could see it in her. She was like, yeah, I've been studying. And what started happening, I was doing so much studying that weird things around me started to happen, like world events when I was studying. And I was like, nah, it's just that your eyes are more open to it. That's more what happens. But all of that friction that's created from the constant studying, the constant learning and trying things out, it creates a lot of fire in your head. It creates a lot of heat. Sometimes those of you who are new to the path or on the path, you feel it, and those of you who feel it, you know what I'm talking about. You get those headaches, or you get that itch. Any of you have ever got that itch, either on your brow chakra, your forehead itches all the time, or the top of your head itches all the time, or the back of your neck. Okay. And that's because you have this energy. You got to remember that your chakra system is like a closed system. It's like a closed ecosystem. So from crown to root. Well, it's seemingly closed. Let me put it that way. It can be closed, but what we're working to do through our work is to open them up. So let me say, yeah, I'm opening up my crown chakra, or I'm opening up my root chakra. And that happens beyond just going to the bathroom. But beneath the root chakra, you have the foot chakra. Okay. And depending on which direction you go, the foot chakra is often called the last point. So some systems teach that you actually start at the crown and come down to the foot. Right. And I know that's not the common for many of you. You're taught that you start at the root or the base, and you're trying to work your way up to the crown. Again, many things are cultural based, you see. But if you just, and when you want to open up your mind and you want to learn some stuff, learn different cultural understandings, different cultural assertions, and that helps you to start seeing things in different lights, and doing the maybe the what ifs, maybe that is so that's something you want to do. You always want to kind of open yourself up to learning about different systems, different religions. Doesn't mean you have to join them, and if you feel like you're not in a place where it's like, if you feel like, well, if I try to learn that, I'm going to jump into that. I'm not strong enough to surround myself because everything sounds good to me right now. If that's the case, then maybe you shouldn't. But at the same time, you don't want to necessarily be driven by fear like that, So, but definitely, I strongly urge that, especially when you feel like you're in a rut. You've been studying for a while, and especially if the materials get monotonous or you're just not inspired to do certain things, learn a new religion, like learning a new language. Learning languages is also an excellent way to expand your mental capacity. Maybe, and I've actually been meaning to do a show on that, learning languages and giving some tips and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do that. All right. So anyway, let's get back to this foot chakra. I know that's what you're all itching, no pun intended, itching to learn about, is this foot chakra, and I don't want to be a stinker and take too much time and not get to it. No pun intended. No, I'm playing. All right. So getting to the foot chakra, you laugh at everything. I got a young man in here who's making a lot of noise and laughing at the corniest jokes. You've never had a sense of humor, even since you was a little boy. But anyway, it's good to see you finally laughing. So let's deal with the foot chakra for a second. So I was talking about all of the heat that we generate a lot of times through our thoughts, and a lot of heat that we generate through our spiritual activity. And that heat needs a place to dissipate. That's your foot chakra. See, sometimes we look at it like, my head is real active and we get antsy. What do I do? What's my next step? Now, some of that you're going to express out to your soul, to your higher self, your doppelganger. Some of it's going to come back through your body, but some of that heat and that needs to also be discharged in another way, like and your foot chakra serves as a sort of heat sink, if you could imagine, because all of that heat you're not necessarily going to use. A lot of systems, sometimes when we use them, we don't use them at full capacity. We'll get into that. Even like solar systems and things like that, we're only using 15% of it, and most of the other stuff gets dissipated. Could you please keep it down? Thank you. So when we're dealing with the foot chakra, go over there and do that. Golly. When you start teaching, this is what happens. When you start teaching and you start bringing that energy, people come in and come around. Now, sometimes it could be your pets will cozy up when you start doing your readings and your rituals. Sometimes it could be bugs, or sometimes it could be pests in the form of children. God. It's just a magnetic pull of teaching and information. They just like being around it, and if possible, disturbing it. So the foot chakra, right? That's our discharge point for all the energy that comes in through the crown. All right. It doesn't discharge through the root. A lot of people think that, like, yeah, I did a colon cleanse or a detox, or I ate a bunch of celery and had me a nice, BM. I'm discharging that vibration. I've heard people say that before. You have a lot of vibration and energy, ashe, trapped in your intestines, and you need to get it out. It doesn't work that way. I mean, why would, and I've often said this in my own studies and in my own teaching, like, why would we as divine and intelligent beings just totally go from crown to root, or let's say sphincter, and like ignore the legs? Well, the legs aren't important. It's just only only where your spine is. That's where all your magic is at. The legs don't matter. Of course, that's nonsensical, right? It doesn't make any sense. So what the foot chakras provide for us, they provide for us a way to discharge the high energy of what's going on up top. Okay. And what are we discharging it into? Of course, we're discharging it into the earth. Sometimes the foot chakras are also called the earth chakras. But one of the things that you should know is that you have foot chakras and you have earth chakras, two different chakras. Okay. So, but for now we're dealing with our foot chakras, right? So what they are primarily, they're dischargers, and they discharge all of that electrical energy that's going up and down your kundalini, or what some of you may call your spine. They discharge all of that energy, that electrical stream, and they discharge it into the earth. Okay. Anything you put into the earth, anything gets rebalanced. A lot of times you guys have called me up about that. Oh, I got these spiritual supplies that I got from this priest or whomever, and I'm no longer cool with that person. Should I, what should I do with this stuff? And depending on the situation, depending on the person, sometimes I'm able to tell you, just take it and bury it. Okay. Now you're not burying it because what you're trying to do is like bury the relationship. It's not metaphorical in that sense. But the earth neutralizes. Even in electrical systems, you have the ground, right? And the ground, a lot of times, it could be a copper rod, or sometimes a galvanized pipe that's going into soil, going into the earth, and that provides a ground, so that way the electricity has a place to go and it doesn't back into the system and overload it. Or blow it out or make your house catch on fire. A whole lot of different things like that. So you always have that ground wire. And I'm also going to do a show at some point on schematics. That's a show that I've always wanted to do for years. And I don't know. I just never kind of got around to it. I always wanted to do a show teaching people how to read electronic schematics, like how to read circuit boards and things like that. And the reason being is because if you start looking at how circuits are built and how electricity current, let me put it that way, current runs through the actual board, how it's stopped, how it's released, you got different pole dip switches, things like that. It's amazing. It will really start to give you an idea of how to move energy, how to block energy, how to divert energy, how to, redirect it different places. So, and what's interesting too, a lot of the symbols that you see in schematics, they look exactly like spiritual symbols. You'll see, obviously you'll see positive signs, crosses, we'll call it a cross. You'll see negative signs. You'll see ankhs. There's a symbol that looks like the ankh. There's a symbol that looks like the symbol for Hotep, the hieroglyph for Hotep. If any of you are familiar with that hieroglyph, it looks like which Hotep, when you draw it, it basically looks like I used to say a loaf of bread, but it looks like say if you take a straight line, then you go up, put a little curve like a bump, and then you keep going straight. Okay. And then you connect that on the bottom. So it almost looks like a boat almost. Right. But it's got that little bump on top. You find that symbol also in electrical current, or electrical schematic system. So, we're going to get into that one day. Some of you may find it boring, but I don't think you will. And that's stuff you need to know. I feel that's good survival information. I learned about how to build circuit boards when I was young, like maybe real young. I think I started doing that. I was maybe 10 years old, something like that. There was a store down on Canal Street. Some of you may remember, and they still have them down there. You can go to Canal Street and get any type of electric part you want down in the city. And they had what they call Heath kits, Heath, Heath kits. And you could get these different Heath kits and you could build different stuff. You could build microphones, you could build your own light, from ground up. You can build and you could get boards, but you could go down there and there'd be these big bins that you would walk through. Like, you go through the store and you could get these and it'd be bins, and in like one bin, it'd just be all buttons, like, like the button you'd have on an electrical device to push the on and off. So you'd have maybe like a 2-pole switch. Then you may have a 3-pole switch where you have off in the middle and on, and then you might go to another bin. It's just you got all of these different circuit boards. That's it. Another bin may just have capacitors, resistors, and another bin may have little LED lights, so forth, so on. You get the point. But looking at all of these different parts, at a young age and putting things together, because even in my spiritual work, a lot of times I tell you guys, I build most of the stuff I use. Well, I was always like that. Even as a child, I would build whatever I wanted, and I like to take stuff apart a lot. I used to like to reverse engineer things, take it apart, see if I can make it faster, or just see if I can put it back together. If I was semi smart as the person who built the remote control car or whatever it is that I had. And I didn't have really toys as a child, so I didn't really have a house where they weren't into. You can get toys. You got a coat and a scarf. Anything after that, you have to figure you on your own. So you'd be surprised when you remove some of those standard mainstays that we think that all children should have. You'd be surprised how their own personal interests will begin to flourish because they don't really know what they're missing. I didn't know I was supposed to have a room full of like 5 different types of footballs and basketballs and whatever, and the baseball mitts and baseball. I didn't know I was supposed to have all of that. Instead I just had a bunch of stereo sets that people threw out. I had about 20 speakers wired up all around my room because people were always throwing out speakers, and I would grab them and anything that was made with metal and circuit boards, I'm like, this isn't garbage. Now I throw speakers out and stuff like that. See, as we get older, we get stupid. When you're young, that brilliance is still very much alive in you, and that's because you haven't allowed all that dead skin to cake up on the bottom of your feet, and you forget who you are. Then you're not discharging properly. So all that old energy is just circulating inside of you. So the foot chakra becomes a harmonizing agent for your spirit and your body. Your spirit is moving around and trying to find different things, and it wants to do different things, and it wants to express that through the body. And what your foot chakra does is it provides an anchor so that that's possible, because it has to anchor the two together so they can work together in harmony. But as we get older sometimes, and we keep buying a bunch of cheap footwear, and we get our corns and bunions and all them other issues, we start neglecting the feet and the health of the feet. And when we start to neglect the health of the feet, then we dismiss the multidimensional qualities that the foot chakra has. Because remember, the foot chakra is operating between different worlds. It's the world of the earth, and then it's harmonizing and balancing the world of the sky. You see, so it's an important and critical piece. Not only is it discharging those electrical streams, but what it also does especially when it comes to women, more than men. But we both do this because we both got masculine and feminine inside us. But women have this potential much more. Women pull energy from bottom to top. Okay, and men pull energy from top to bottom. Yes, you are making a lot of noise. Yes, they probably can't hear you right now. Yes, they keep looking over here. Yeah. So men pull energy. Oh God. When I'm done with this show, you and I are gonna slap box. Yeah. Okay. So men pull energy from top to bottom. That's why we have a staff that points down to the ground. Women have the opening in between, that's open to the ground. So ours comes down, yours comes up. Nice, beautiful closed circuit that we create when we conjoin. So when you have that understanding, you start to understand that, especially in females, you all do it, but especially they assimilate all of that information and energy from the earth up through the Kundalini stream. So it comes up. Okay, so they walk around. That's why they love being barefoot. Women love wearing sandals. You'll find, and no strike to any woman listening. We're all here to learn. We're all here to look at what we may be doing that we can do better. We all are doing that. But what you will find is that women who are dead set on never leaving the home in anything shorter than a high heel, just pay attention to that. They won't wear sneakers. They won't wear sandals. They won't wear flats. They're always in heels, especially ones you find that ones who they love heels like that. They usually drive SUVs. Okay. They're trying to get as far away from the earth as possible. You'll find that they all, a lot of times, and I don't want to paint with too broad of a stroke, but oftentimes there's a common personality present in those type of people. There's a common imbalance that's present from those type of people. The ability to reason and even have real honorable convictions a lot of times is absent and devoid in those type of individuals. Okay, and I'm not saying that those individuals are inherently flawed. I'm saying their aesthetic that leads them away from that ability and gift to assimilate with earth energy. It creates an imbalance, because remember, your foot chakra, what it does is it balances your chakras, all the rest of them. Think about that for a second. Let's say if you had a foot issue and you never stood straight, you just never did. So basically, all this beautiful chakra stuff you're talking about, and my spine and my kundalini, the only time it has the potential possibility of actually being straightly aligned is if you're sitting down. But when you're actually moving and trotting through the transformative experience of moving through the earth, it's always slanted and leaning. Kind of like what happens when you wear high heels all the time. And a lot of you men wear heels too. So I'm not just talking about the women, right? But so when those are out of balance, when your feet are out of balance, your foot chakra is out of balance like that, what happens is your kundalini is out of balance. Snake is leaning. The chakras are out of balance. The chakras are leaning. So where they're supposed to be spinning to the right straight, now what happens, instead of spinning, they're spinning, the axis of their rotation is thrown off. You just imagine if the axis, the angle of the Earth's angulation was thrown off, what that would result in. I mean, catastrophes, hurricanes, volcanoes would begin to erupt, plates would shift, continents would separate, our angulation to the sun would change. I mean, we could have another ice age as a result, just from changing that angle. So imagine what that, and remember, these are all macrocosmic representations of what naturally happens inside of your body. So imagine what you're doing to your own temple when you're not guiding, ordering, nurturing, and taking care of your own foot and balancing energy. You'll find that with some people, physiognomy. I like physiognomy. You'll find that some people have consistent issues and challenges standing straight. You ever had a friend like that? You never just see them stand straight. They're always leaning to one side or shifting their weight. I know for me, when I stand, I tend to rock. I don't, unless if I'm out and I'm like in an environment that I'm not as familiar with, you think I'm a statue. I'm standing straight, hands are not in my pocket, and I'm observing. But typically, if I'm in my zone or in a place that I am familiar with, I notice I tend to rock more. Now, that rocking aspect, and a lot of men, you may be familiar with this. You might have this too. You're like, yeah, just pay attention to yourself. And wives, pay attention to your husbands. Like, yeah, you do rock, because he may not notice it. That's a warrior thing. That's why I can always tell a tough guy. I look at how they stand, look at how they walk, and you'll find that tough guys usually, I'm not calling myself a tough guy. I'm just saying sometimes I might look like one. I'm not a tough guy. I'm a big old softy. Yeah, but we still slap boxing after the show, buddy. All right. So, but what it is because a lot of times through battle, we get really damaged. We get really hurt, not just through physical battles, but through our emotional battles, through our spiritual battles. So we constantly have this desire. Really, I know this is going to be, man, I know I'm telling you, even if you didn't notice about yourself, but a lot of us who have strong warrior energy, we have a constant desire to be cradled and to be rocked like back in the womb. We really, and because, many warriors are afraid to admit this, but, being a warrior is about being open to being vulnerable. Sometimes, and you know what I'm talking about, you just want her to just hold you. You just want to have her sit down, lay down in her lap, and just let her hold you, or rock back and forth while she's holding you. Because it's that rocking motion that soothes us. From all that warrior activity. Think about how much a baby is processing silently, without expression. They spend most of their time barefoot. They're going through war of assimilating and learning the earth and the world. So they like that rocking. Oh, this was rough. So you find that with warrior energies too. Look at boxers. Next time you're flipping through the sports channel, look at football players and look at boxers and look at how they stand. You're going to notice that they never stand. They always rock. They rock on the balls of their feet most of the time. It's they're rocking themselves. They're soothing themselves. Now, this is a manipulation and a stimulation of the foot chakra. We want to kind of be aware of the fact that we are touching the earth. We're like invigorating and stimulating that foot chakra even when we stand. You see. So that's just a small thing when you're reading the physiognomy, but it also shows you the effectiveness and the amazingness of that particular chakra, because what it's basically doing, the foot chakra serves to anchor light. It keeps light from flying off. That darkness or feminine energy is a cradle for light. Without darkness or black, there's nothing that light has to sit inside of. It has to sit within that cradle. Okay. Now, the earth is what? Feminine dark energy. And what does it do? It cradles, like we are the light, right? We're the light that's wrapped in flesh. So what does that earth do? It cradles that light, very similar to the sacred Odu of Oturupon Meiji. In Oturupon Meiji, we see it symbolized as a woman with a child in her womb. Oturupon Meiji deals with pregnancies. If you want to get pregnant, there's certain work you could do with that Odu. It also staves off abortions and miscarriages and things like that, because it also rules over those aspects. But false starts, trying to get something started and it not really happening. So you need that ED Meiji energy, and ED means birth or to give or to hold. It means birth, but it also means to hold. So sometimes we can hold things for too long and we don't give birth to them. By the time we let them go, they're dead. So being able to stimulate that whole process of being cradled and rocked within the earth is very powerful. Just like when we bury bodies, after all of the heat that it's going through, living as a human, imagine someone who's 80, 90 years old. Imagine how much heat they generate just trying to get through this thing, just trying to get through this journey. They generate a lot of heat. And what do? We wrap them in all white, like we did with El Haj Malik Shabazz. Wrap them up in the white, and we put them down into the earth. Here's a cool space for you, because you generated some heat, brother. You were Shango. You were generating all that electricity. And what does that electricity have to do at a time? It has to discharge its stream into the earth. There was a song about this that you could study, especially for men, that was written some time ago by a powerful griot that we had by the name of Marvin Gaye. The name of the song was Sexual Healing. There was a truth to that. Okay, it wasn't just a song that you old folks at the barbecue could snap your fingers and say, "Oh, this is my song. Come on, nephew, dance with me." You dancing with your nephew to Sexual Healing. I want you to think about that one for a second. But anyway, sex does heal the warrior. I've said this before when we had the Facebook group before I shut it down. I know I'm the fun police, right? I shut the group down, but yeah, I shut the group down. A lot of times all men need is food, companionship when they want it, and sex. That's their healing medicine. That's the core of their healing medicine. And I know a woman would say, that's it. I mean, what about yeah, what about part? That's what you need, because you're much more complex, you know? But it does really help to ground that electricity. That's what it's really about. Grounding the activity. You find that those who have high mental activity, for one, that's why the cacao is so good. Any of you guys eat cacao, you know about it. It helps with the brain activity. When you have high brain activity, you're burning a lot of energy. A lot of energy. It's a lot of electricity, a lot of synapses firing off, and you need to discharge some of that. And that's where the earth comes in. That's why the root chakra, the foot chakra is usually identified by the color brown, right? Brown representing the earth, of course, and that being the grounding point, and that being one of its main carrier functions. So again, the discharge of energy, the balancing of the kundalini, the balancing of the chakra wheels, and the assimilation of earth energy into the body, as well as the anchoring and harmonizing of light energy with dark energy. So that the light would be spirit, the dark energy would be the body. And the foot chakra serves as an anchoring point between the two of them, to keep them together, to keep them in harmony. That's why when you start studying reflexology, you learn how vital those sacred points are inside of the foot. And how, well, we can stimulate this point, because it's a balancing focal point. It's like Grand Central for the body. It balances everything else. So I know we're so excited about the crown chakra. I know we talk about it a lot and we draw pictures of it. We write songs about it and poems and everything. But in your process, don't forget the foot chakra. As above, so below. As below, so above. You have to pay attention to the full stream of energy from top to bottom, from the top of your locks to the soles of your feet. Pay attention. And just so you know, another word for soul in Greek is salt. Imagine that. All right, that has been our Foundational Friday. I want to thank you all for listening, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. I trust that you have enjoyed this time as much as I have, and enjoyed this season, and getting closer to a place where you can identify the truest self without getting wrapped up in the titles, without getting wrapped up into what you consider to be your responsibility. But like I said, in order to free you, you must know you. And if you don't know you, then chances are what you're liberating within yourself is not the thing that's going to anchor and move the whole self. So from your crown to your feet is where most of your work is done. If you take care of father, you take care of mother, then the children have a better chance. Okay, so with that, we're going to head out again with Hero. And like I said, be on the lookout for some of the other songs that I'll be finishing and putting out. We got a project that I'm working on. I don't even get a name of the project, actually. I don't want to get a name. Just a project I'm working on that I'll be sharing soon. Wow, you just really going to just start banging stuff around now. Thank you. I'm not a hero. I'm a hero. All right. Peace, everyone. And thank you for listening. And thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all. I value you all. And I will clear vision and strength to you all. Until such time, I am Chief Yuya. This has been Foundational Friday on Enlightenment and Transformation. I will be here Sunday with Chief Speaks. See you then.
On the times we were kings, creative success, we were loved by our queens, but Western conquest provided a dream. Scheme I protest, it divided the team. No, oh no, yummy. Oh, hero. Oh, yeah. Oh, watch out for the privilege. Prey on the innocent. People are villains, pilgrims, attend. They murder our children. Searching, they kill them. Educating, they will them. For dollars and cents. Survival of fittest. Projects for living. Trying and dying for riches. On the corner, just building. Young, old hero. On the corner, just building. Building. Yeah. Ain't your hero. No, not hero.